Okay, I need a break. I need a break from commissions because my hand is cramping, and I need a break from the stupidity that is on Twitter. I want to go back to a simpler time. I need something that will make me feel like a kid again. Something that I love. I know. 1,000 years ago, superstition and the sword ruled. It was a time of darkness. It was a world of fear. It was the age of gargoyles. Oh, how I love this show! Okay, Viper, calm down. Don't gush. Formulate words and sentences. Don't just scream. Wish me luck. Gargoyles was a TV series produced by Disney back in 1994. The series features a species of nocturnal creatures known as gargoyles that turn to stone during the day. After spending 1,000 years in an enchanted petrified state, the gargoyles are reawakened in a modern-day New York City. Well, as modern as you could get for 1994. And take on the roles as the city's secret nighttime protectors. Gargoyles is more well known for having a darker and more complex tone, vastly different from the surrounding shows on Disney at the time, such as Gummy Bears, Tailspin and Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Instead, many compared it to Warner Bros. Batman the Animated Series because of the similar themes. You could say that Gargoyles was created to rival Batman in a sense at the time. The storyline was mainly episodic, but at points it did intertwine with each other to create a deeper and richer story throughout the series. Gargoyles ran for 3 seasons, but the 3rd season ran very much under the radar as many people didn't really pick up on it as much as the other 2 seasons. Now, you can't talk about Gargoyles without talking about the voice cast. Many people know that Gargoyles had the voice talents of many of the Star Trek Next Generation cast, such as William T. Riker, who played David Xanatos, Counselor Diana Troy, who played Demona, Worf, who played Coldstone, and Data, who played Puck. But a huge shout out must go out to Captain Anderson from Mass Effect, who played Goliath, and Alison Blake from Eureka, who played Elisa Maza. But the truth is, the whole of the voice cast did an amazing job bringing these characters to life and giving these characters a distinct personality and feel overall. The series focuses on Goliath and his clan of gargoyles, watching the adventures and hijinks that happen around them. In the year 994, the clan lives in a castle in Scotland. After a betrayal from those that they trusted and killed by humans, the remainder are magically turned to stone in a deep sleep until the castle rises above the clouds. A millennium later, in 1994, billionaire David Xanatos purchases the Gargoyles castle and reconstructs it atop of his New York skyscraper, the Erie Building, thus awakening Goliath and the remainder of his clan. While trying to adjust to their new world, they are aided and befriended by a sympathetic police officer, Elisa Maza, and quickly come into conflict with the plotting Xanatos. In addition, with the Gargoyles' attempts to adjust to the modern New York City, the series also incorporates various supernatural threats to their safety in the world at large. While the series did have its darker tones and themes, it didn't abandon its humour, taking much of the inspiration from the surrounding shows like Gummy Bears. While the slapstick humour Disney is known for is there, it's mainly relegated to Brooklyn, Broadway and Lexington since they are based on the Three Stooges, but the show opted for more of a sarcastic, dark humour a lot of the time, with quick one-liners and in-the-moment jokes.
My revenge. Get an afterlife.
Now, once again, what are you doing here? And please, don't fall off the building this time.
Now, if I was to list off and talk about all the characters in Gargoyles, then we would be here all day. Truth be told, this might be the biggest section in the video. Sorry guys, you did want to see my geeky side. Gargoyles sported a huge array of characters, many of which were actually introduced in the Season 2's World Arc Tour. Instead, what I'll do is I'll focus on the main clan members and the two main villains in the series. Starting with the big guy himself, Goliath. Goliath has a great deal of pride and affection for his clan. He remains mostly serious, showing very little humour, although when he does, it's usually dry remarks. Goliath also acts like a father figure to the younger Gargoyles. Originally having trouble adapting to the modern world, Goliath has quickly learned the new laws and technology surrounding him. He still maintains a firm belief in protecting the castle, at first stubbornly claiming that Castle Wyvern was rightfully his and the clan's, until, due to certain circumstances, they convinced him that it was suicide to remain there. He later expressed to them that all of Manhattan was their castle, their protectorate. Upon meeting his biological daughter Angela, Goliath was initially uncomfortable with her interest in their biological connection, because gargoyle children are traditionally regarded as belonging to the whole clan, and being an actual parent was foreign to him. However, after a talk with Elisa's mother, Diana Maza, played by Uhura from Star Trek, she helped him better understand the bond between parent and child, and accepted Angela as his daughter. Though on a personal note, Goliath, David Keith, you ruined me. Though, can you blame me? With a voice like this?
You are trespassing.
Yep. Hudson is the oldest of the clan and thus acts like a guide to Goliath and the others, though he won't turn down a fight if he's needed. For most of the episodes, Hudson tends to stay either at the castle or the clock tower due to his age and failing eyesight. Hudson, like Goliath, tries to hang on to the old ways, but learns that he too has to move forward in this modern era that they've been thrust into. His favourite thing to do is watch TV in his comfy chair with Bronx by his side, like an old man that he is. Hudson is the only gargoyle to actually use a sword when fighting, compared to the rest who primarily use their claws, fists and tails to fight. Brooklyn is very much the lancer to Goliath. Whereas Goliath is stubborn and hangs on to tradition, Brooklyn is more adventurous, wanting to explore Manhattan, wanting to make friends outside of the clan and likes to joke around. Brooklyn does look up to Goliath, but at the same time doesn't like how he can be treated like a hatchling. Brooklyn also has a vendetta against Demona after she has manipulated him against Goliath so many times. Brooklyn eventually becomes the second in command, but while Brooklyn is happy about being second in command, he has doubts about his leadership skills. During the World Tour arc, while Goliath, Bronx and Elisa are away, Brooklyn has to learn to step up and be the leader Hudson and Goliath know he can be.
He's taken over the labyrinth. He's got all sorts of weapons, and Talon... I couldn't help him.
What's all the commotion then?
Talon needs our help. Let's go.
I thought you didn't want to lead us, lad.
This has nothing to do with what I want. You better come along this time, Hudson. We'll need all the help we can get.
Is that an order, then?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Broadway is a big lovable guy who is kind-hearted and gentle, but don't let his size and kind-hearted nature fool you. He's a powerhouse when it comes to a fight. After waking up in Manhattan, Broadway discovered that he liked detective shows, most likely influenced by Elisa, and Western shows. His friendship with Elisa is particularly strong because of the times he has helped Elisa out on cases. Broadway is also part of a somewhat controversial episode in where it talks about gun safety. In episode 8 of season 1, Broadway visits Elisa, and while Elisa is cooking, Broadway takes a chance to play with Elisa's gun. Broadway's claw slips, pulling the trigger. After Broadway apologises and puts down the gun to go see if Elisa is okay, he finds Elisa lying on the floor, hit by the accidental bullet. Broadway takes Elisa to the hospital, fearing the worst. At the end of the episode, Broadway says that he will never touch another gun again. Lexington is the tech genius of the clan. Quickly adapting to computers and machines, Lexington's favourite thing to do was to tinker around, building and creating his own machinery. He even built Brooklyn's motorbike. Later in the season, Lex becomes quite close to Fox and Xanatos' son, Alex, ultimately becoming his babysitter. though not all was well between Lexington and Fox. Just as Broadway and Brooklyn, Lexington wanted friends outside of the clan, and the pack were on TV posing as heroes. Lex looked up to them. The pack ended up hunting Lexington and the rest of the clan, betraying Lex, who had reached out to them in good faith. And to finish off rounding up the clan, we have Bronx. Bronx is a gargoyle beast similar to that of a dog, but that doesn't mean that he's stupid. He's highly intelligent and helps the others of the clan out on missions. Bronx is a gargoyle I feel sorry for a lot of the time. Because of his lack of wings, when he's not back at the clock tower with Hudson, Bronx has to either be carried by one of the other gargoyles or he has to run behind them, keeping up as best he can. Bronx, like any other dog though, hates pigeons. Elisa Maza is a detective second class with the NYPD. Becoming the first true friend of the gargoyles after they wake up in Manhattan, Elisa becomes the heart and teacher of the group, often having the gargoyles help her in investigations if there are places that she can't go but they can. Elisa also keeps an eye on Xanatos just in case he might try anything or do anything to the clan. Elisa also goes on many adventures with the clan, also having a role in the World Tour arc of the series. Elisa is no pushover though, showing many times in the show her quick wit and determination to catch the bad guy in the end. Elisa is also protective of her family. She does blame Xanatos for her brother's fate after he was transformed into a mutant, a hybrid of a jungle cat, a bat and electric eel, by Xanatos' underling, Anton Savarius. David Xanatos starts off as the main antagonist of the series, but later on becoming a friend of the gargoyles. Xanatos was a good foil for Goliath. Since Goliath's nature was kind and caring, Xanatos' nature before the Reformation was ruthless and cunning, often coming up with plans to manipulate the gargoyles to help him in some way, or in some cases outright murder them. Other times he's shown to be trying to get his own gargoyles, whether it be through robotics, as with the case of the Steel Clan, or through cloning, as with the case of Thylog, a clone of Goliath that turned evil. Xanatos was the one to break the spell held on Goliath and the others in their stone sleep after he partnered up with Demona. Xanatos' reformation begins when his son Alexander is born. When Goliath and the others save Alexander from Oberon, Xanatos says that he owes him a debt he can never repay. Demona is possibly my favourite character out of Gargoyles. Demona, to me, is how a villain should be written. Devious, manipulative, vindictive and cunning. Demona starts off as one of the clan and Goliath's mate. Here she is seen as caring and compassionate, always looking out for her clan, though she did hold a disdain towards humans who ruled the castle Wyvern. She tolerated their presence, as was the gargoyle way. But that changed after the day of the attack, when most of the clan were killed off, and Goliath and the others were turned to stone. Demona, who planned and knew of the incoming attack, hid herself away, putting her faith in the captain of the guard at the time, to protect the rest of the clan as they slept. Over the years, Demona's grief and guilt over what happened to her clan turned to distrust and hatred of the humans, but this did ebb for a time when she allied herself with Macbeth to protect her foster clan. It was during this time that Demona entered a pact with Macbeth to gain immortality from the Weird Sisters, in exchange for Macbeth's youth. Demona would fight by his side and protect Scotland from Duncan I and his men. The downside of this was that Demona and Macbeth could feel each other's pain when in close proximity to each other, but this alliance broke as well because of Demona's distrust of humans. Demona made many more enemies through the years, giving rise to the Hunters, a family set on finding and killing Demona. Does all this make her a sympathetic villain? Demona has had her run of bad luck. For instance, she didn't know that she would create a whole family of huntsmen having the aim to kill her, but she is turning her grief and guilt into hatred of humans. So maybe to some she might be, but to me, she had it coming. Demona, out of all of the gargoyles, has the most arsenals when it comes to fighting. Not only does she have her gargoyle strength, flight and regeneration, but Demona is also skilled in magic after being trained by the Archmage, giving Demona the ability to use any magical item she can get her claws on, like Tetiana's mirror. Demona is also skilled in technology. After having lived for so many years, she's had time to learn and has found uses for technology where magic could not help. Demona has also shown to combine both magic and science together to her own advantage, when she created Coldstone, a gargoyle made from the remains of 3 gargoyles and technology to make up for what could not be replaced. This trick was shown again towards the end of the series when Demona develops a virus, which with the help of Anton Zavarius, voiced by Tim Curry, to kill all humans while attempting to use the idol, the praying gargoyle, to protect the gargoyle kind from the virus. Add all of this with the fact that Demona can turn into a human during the day instead of stone because of Puck. Demona is a deadly force for the gargoyles to face. You could say that Demona is overpowered by today's standards, but unlike some characters who were born with magical abilities, Demona was taught. She learned how to do most of the things she can do. Hey, what else are you going to do when you've got immortality on your side? But these aren't what make Demona my favourite character. For me, it's more of her mind that really entrances me to Demona. She's shown to be cunning, tactful, manipulative and vindictive. Most of these are shown when she's manipulating Brooklyn.
Help! Police! Police!
What would you do? Capture him for human justice? He'd be out of jail and back on the streets in a day.
Look, his grades stink. His friends are hoodlums.
What do you care? You're never home anyway!
They can't share their own homes without fighting. And you think they will share this world with us? They hold each other's lives completely without worth. Do you really think they would accept us with open arms?
No.
And this is not the worst of it. We must make Goliath see the truth. Humanity will never trust or accept us.
But not all humans are like that. Elisa is our friend.
Perhaps the policewoman is the exception that proves the rule. But can she keep you safe from the rest of humanity? Only we can protect each other, Brooklyn. We must be united and strong, and willing to deal with the humans as they would deal with us. Goliath thinks we can hide in their midst like mice and hope for their understanding. This is not possible. Remember what happened to Goliath and Lexington? They were hunted like animals because Lexington trusted the pack.
How did you know?
If you think I'm wrong, then show yourself to them. Very wise, my young friend. They would shoot you down like a dog.
Let's say you're right. What can we do? Goliath still believes humanity will accept us eventually.
Goliath must be made to see the truth for the good of us all. There is a way, Brooklyn. The Grimorum Arcanorum. Bring it to me. There is a spell of truth in its pages. With it, I can open Goliath's eyes. Once Goliath understands, the rest will follow him.
Demona is possibly the best villain Disney has ever made, in my opinion. As I said earlier, there are so many characters in the Gargoyle series that it would take forever to go over them all. Some of the characters are ones like Oberon, Tatiana, Puck, Macbeth and King Arthur, but they don't come off as cheesy as you might expect them to be portrayed, actually being given the respect they deserve. Gargoyles' animation was in the style of hand-painted backgrounds and hand-drawn characters, like many of the shows in the 90s, but this I think has helped it age well, still giving a crisp, clean animation upon viewing. The different designs of the gargoyles allow them to really stand out, making them more memorable in the process. The way the gargoyles were designed does give off a sense of unnaturalness or eeriness about them, but they don't feel too inorganic to the world around them. But the highlight has to be the music, especially the introduction. The way the introduction starts off with a low choir helps accent the gargoyles' growl as they come into focus, when followed by the drums helping the tone of the music build until the orchestral band of trumpets and other brass come booming in. The music was made to grab your attention, to let you know that this was a different show. Most of the background music in Gargoyles gives a sense of mystery and eeriness. The way the music creeps in with the pan flute and choir, while the trumpets and other brass give a sense of epicness to certain scenes when needed. Gargoyles has many good, even great episodes, many of which focus around Demona and her past, how she survived the 1,000 years while Goliath and the others slept in stone, thus giving Demona more character development along the way. But my favourite episode would have to be the Mark of the Panther from Season 2 during the World Tour arc. Arriving in Africa in splendid fashion, Goliath, Elisa, Angela and Bronx hear about the story of the trickster spider god Anansi, and how he played a trick on the Panther Queen from Elisa's mother Diane Marza, who was visiting the village to be part of the ceremony in honour of the Panther Queen. But things take a turn for the worst when poachers storm the village, and Diana's teacher turns out to have the exact power of the panther from the story of Anansi. Goliath and the others later find the village that was built in honour of Anansi, where inside they find Anansi himself, and is now a giant spider, and try to break the spell that Anansi had cast upon the teacher. This episode is my favourite because of the building relationship between Goliath and Angela, whilst also giving us a glimpse into the relationship between Elisa and her mother. With help from Elisa's mother, Goliath is learning that maybe the gargoyle way of parenting is not always the right way. This episode was also great because it did break away from the dominating Shakespearean and Celtic influences to bring us something different. Other episodes did do this too. For example, the episode of Grief gave us the Egyptian mythical god Anubis, but Mark of the Panther is my favourite because of the character and relationship building that it does. While I wouldn't say it's the worst episode, it's certainly one of the weirdest. The episode Walkabout is set in the World Tour arc. After the magic of Avalon delivers Goliath, Angela, Elisa and Bronx in Australia, they find out that one of Fox's projects has gone out of control. A source of liquid metal controlled by nanotechnology threatens to take over the whole Earth. With one attempt to send a deactivation code to the main computer failing, Goliath, along with an enemy-turned-friend Dingo, travels to the Dreamtime to defeat the AI. Yeah, I think the writers might have had a little help with this episode. It's not a bad episode, it's entertaining to see what Goliath and Dingo are able to create in the dream world. Even seeing how the nanomachines go about following their programming to create order out of chaos is interesting to watch, but the way they defeated or quelled the AI is confusing to me. It's like saying that the best way to defeat Skynet or all the Terminators was for John Connor to sleep and talk to the computer programming in the dream world. After the series was cancelled from the airwaves, the world and story of the Gargoyles continued in comic book form. We got to build on more characters like Brooklyn and the London clan of Gargoyles. I didn't get a chance to read the comics, however, and so I can't comment further, though I would really like to read them. So the question is, why do I love the show? Well, let me ask you something first. Do you have something, a TV show, a movie, a song, anything that has stayed with you, that no matter how much time passes, you never forget it, and that thing lit a fire within you, a passion that has never left you? Gargoyles did that for me. Gargoyles entranced me with its story and characters. It was the show that got me into drawing, wanting to create my own characters. Also, the lessons that Gargoyles teaches stays with me to this day. This does bring up the question on whether I want Gargoyles to be rebooted. While my answer may seem biased, I would still say no. Gargoyles is a gem that should remain untouched. The messages and animations still hold up to this day. If anything, I think Disney should remaster it, but I don't think it should be rebooted. All I can really say is, I love Gargoyles.